I think we should stick with the Trump assassination. The more I've been thinking about it, the
Right.
more I feel like something is fishy, that this is a conspiracy. Is that how you're feeling?
Okay. Uh, no, I
Okay, tell me why.
understand why. Okay, I'm gonna. I said that in general there are two explanations to an event like this, right? Incompetence or conspiracy. And my tendency is to go with incompetence unless you can prove otherwise. There's just a great deal of incompetence in the world. There's a great deal of incompetence in government agencies. And there clearly was incompetence on display on the day of the assassination attempt. Tremendous incompetence. The main thing is that that outer perimeter had not been secured. And then, other people like Larry Johnson have pointed out, they clearly they didn't work out what you call an integrated communications protocol. I mean, here they were working. The Secret Service, okay, was working with local law enforcement agencies, and that happens. That's not unusual, at a venue like the one where Trump was. And apparently there was I think it was the local law enforcement that was supposed to be in charge of that building out there. Now, the Secret Service still is responsible for, inspecting it and, and establishing some sort of, is making sure it's secure. But, maybe the manpower that they use can be local law enforcement. And now you have these different agencies, right, that are got to be communicating with each other, especially when something goes wrong or something suspicious happens, as happened on that Saturday afternoon, right? But they apparently didn't have that. When they didn't have a someplace, like a single number or station that everybody was supposed to call into to report a problem. So there was a question, people were saying, well, I told the cop and he didn't do anything. It's just that clearly they hadn't worked these things out and respond in advance. And then also you see somebody like, somebody with a gun on a roof, you got to know, okay, you don't want to just shoot him dead immediately because he could very well be, somebody in another agency. And that would, these things happen and there was a miscommunication. He's up there, but you should have something to mark him. Like he should have an armband of a certain color that was determined like the morning of the event, right? Clearly they didn't do that. So just overall it was a mess. And the thing is, you can see that, okay, yeah, this was breathtaking incompetence. But then you start to wonder about what this agency, the Secret Service, has become. When you start to hear the head of the Secret Service, a woman that used to be an executive at Frito-Lay, like the corn chip company, she's the person that is running it now, and she clearly doesn't know what she's doing or talking about. She offered an explanation today. Said, well, the reason we didn't have somebody up on the roof there was a safety concern. It was a peaked roof. Could have fallen down, right?
It was not a very peaked roof at all.
No, it was not. You've been on much steeper roofs. I know you have been. And
Right.
and then those guys that were, you could see up to, from the spectator's vantage point to the left of Trump, the snipers that took the shots at him, they were on a steeper roof than the perpetrator was on, the assassin was on, right? So that's just absurd. I have the feeling that this is not just one incidence of incompetence. It seems like this has become an incompetent agency. Now,
How can you say that? I mean, do you have other examples of glaring incompetence? I mean, how do we know
well,
that
no,
this
I
wasn't
haven't.
deliberate, deliberate
Yeah.
incompetence?
Okay, right. Well, I'll get to that. I don't think the conspiracy theory is ridiculous. Again, for reasons that we've said. But I'm going to just lay out the incompetence theory, which I find sufficient. Again, I do say it's breathtaking incompetence, but I still find it believable. Yeah. So we had all these problems, and one reason maybe that we had these problems was that I guess Trump's usual team was pulled off. I've heard there's different reasons for that. One was that that Jill Biden was in Pittsburgh. Later, I didn't hear anything about that, so that may have been just a rumor. But then more recently, it was said that the team was tired, and they rotated in a new team, but this new team was rather inexperienced. So you had an inexperienced team that made a lot of bad decisions, and maybe had been poorly trained because of problems higher up within the Secret Service. Now, you're not the only guy who thinks it's a conspiracy theory. Larry Johnson, a very smart guy, a former CIA analyst, he's leaning towards that too. But then when he laid out his reasons for it, I just did not find him convincing. And one thing that he pointed out, is convincing him that this had to be a setup and that it has to be a team, actually convinced me otherwise. And that is that he talked about the fact that the assassin, the would-be assassin, walked across the field a great distance, like 100 yards or more, a couple hundred yards in the open with his gun, right? He parked a van and then walked all the way over to the building, and nobody stopped him. But I mean, that tells me that, okay, if it's a conspiracy, this was a really wild, incompetent conspiracy, or you have to claim that somehow everybody's involved, local law enforcement and the Secret Service. Because
not necessarily, right?
Well, because the thing is, he went by, all kinds of people saw him.
That makes it even more apparent, though. Like, they noticed him, I was reading, 20 to 30 minutes before he actually fired off any shots. Right. So that people notified. So even if, they should have just taken Trump, even if they weren't sure if he was a good guy or a bad guy. The immediate thing to do would be like, okay, well, let's cancel it and investigate. The fact that
well, that's what I've heard. That really would have been a professional response. Before taking a shot, you just say, Trump, you got to drop down. We're in danger right now.
Yeah, or just escort him off and say, we got to check out this perp. We got somebody here with a gun that we're not sure if he's with a government agent or...
Yeah, right. No, I agree. Again, if it's incompetence, it's breathtaking incompetence, and that's just a further example of it. But I mean, it seems to me like if this was a conspiracy, like he's working with somehow the agencies, that this is just so it's so open, and again that you would have to have everybody in on it. It doesn't even strike me as something that had been worked out professionally, like somebody.
You don't have to have everybody in on it, though, right? I mean, it could. There's somebody that's going to call the shot, right? That says, we have somebody here, and somebody says, "Oh, just don't worry about it, let it go," right? Will we ever find out if somebody said that? Because surely I'm sure somebody was notified. Well, have we heard anything from local police?
Yeah, the thing is, it would be hard to see if, in fact, that's what. Yeah, we hope in the end we really need an investigation. Both of us are speculating, and I'm just, again, I'm somebody who is reluctant to embrace conspiracy theories, unless I find some overwhelming evidence. I see just overwhelming incompetence. I think everything here so far can be explained by it, and you just say, well, this is just so incompetent, it's impossible. I can understand that, and I can understand why somebody would.
This then. Do you think JFK was assassinated by the CIA?
I don't know. I really don't know.
You disappoint me, Dad.
Things. I haven't actually sat down and read a book, but I'm always hearing about different theories. And all I can say from what I know about that assassination, that there's enough to be very suspicious that the Warren Commission's findings, were not... were not sound. Like, maybe were at least in part a cover-up of some kind. But I haven't ever had, like an explanation of, of what actually took place that really I found convincing or believable. Now, maybe there's something out there. I know there's a wealth of material, and perhaps somebody has really put his finger on what happened that day. I just haven't seen it. That's all I can say.
Well, the roof where the shooter was on was 130 yards away. People say to secure the outer perimeter. In my opinion, that's not even an outer perimeter. 130 yards is nothing. I mean, think about, everybody knows a track and field track, right? That's 440 yards around the track.
Right.
So just think about that.
Yeah,
How short that is. Usain Bolt would be there in 10 seconds.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, yeah. Well, actually, typically you secure the perimeter going out 500 meters, sometimes even more. A professional sniper, can hit targets at, over a kilometer, over 1,000 meters. But they, usually the minimum radius, that for a secured area, for, again, a venue like this for a presidential candidate is 500 meters, at least 500 meters.
I could have taken Trump out with a slingshot at 130 yards. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe not.
Maybe. Hey, there's some pretty good slingshots.
I know it's wild. I agree. Like this person, clearly, like the person in charge of the Secret Service and should be fired, and other people too. And this matter should be thoroughly investigated.
Do you believe that it will be thoroughly investigated?
Yeah, well, there are reasons. I understand there are reasons to be skeptical about that. There's no question about it.
One thing that is consistent is that there's very little accountability in the U.S. government, at least within the past 20, 30 years. It seems like we reward failure. It's like, oh, you destroyed that country and blew $500 billion to $1 trillion. Let's promote them. Let's get them back, fast track this guy to the top.
Right.
So,
I'm sure this was probably, I don't know. I don't know if this is for a fact, but this woman came from Frito-Lay. You kind of wonder, is she a DEI?
Those are good chips.
They may be great chips, but
well, hey, maybe they get. Okay, never mind. I won't go there.
Okay.
Yeah, to me, it just seems the level of incompetence would be so high that I don't find it believable. Like, how could it be that this guy was detected up to a half an hour before? It's not like there are a lot of buildings here. It's a pretty open farmland field. There's only that basically where the shooter was is the only the most logical spot.
I think there were other spots, but that would be the one you would be
one of the most
really
prime.
Focused on.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so it's like the prime spot, no question about it.
And okay, sure, there's incompetence. Maybe they didn't have enough training, but their Secret Service, their law enforcement, they have some training. Even if you didn't have any training, just from playing video games, I could tell you, what to do, and just like, hey, and then you have the fact that it's Trump, who's probably the most likely person to be assassinated in America, a high-profile person to be assassinated in America, maybe even the world, right? So it just doesn't add up to me. I'm sticking with
Well, you may be right. I'm not saying that you're wrong, but I'm going to stick with my. I'm sticking with my incompetence theory. Nobody knows, other than a select group of people, nobody really knows anything now. We're on the outside speculating. I guess, let's see, what else?
How can it be that officers were alerted half an hour before and there was nothing was done to say, Trump, stay inside until we check this out?
Well, I'll actually repeat something that you said last time, which I thought was, very insightful. It's just that, look, nothing has happened like this for 43 years. And you think about all these various events. There have been hundreds, thousands and thousands and thousands, and the snipers get up in position and, everything, and nothing happens. You start to get that's your default assumption. Of course, I have this job where nothing happens, right? And then when something happens, you just kind of, maybe there are a couple times when something seemed weird and it turned out not to be anything.
But even then, it's like one out of 100 times or even 1,000 times something happens. And that's exciting for you. Check it out, right? That's what you're supposed to do.
Right. Yeah, but it also just kind of reminds me of, like, I've read books by professional kind of, we would call them hackers now. This was back in the day of phone systems. He would learn how to hack into phone systems. And to do that, he had to actually call like personnel within the telephone company and, get codes and everything. And they were not supposed to give them to him. But it was like nobody, the fact is that, you get calls all the time. And sometimes people kind of like forget the protocol or whatever. And there's no problem. You don't want to be an a-hole and cause problems. So you just go along with it. And so he would just get the codes again and again. People would break protocol because it was so unusual. Nobody had ever done what he had done. That it was just like the security system that had been set up didn't really work because people just became so used to, uneventfulness, and that became everybody's expectation. And then, you act suspicious, which you're supposed to be. Then you kind of what's wrong with you, man? Why are you being so suspicious? And it may be some of that psychology that's in place. It's just like, hey, this doesn't seem right, but, I can't really be anything serious. It's got to be one of their guys. I know that's not an excuse. I'm not saying that, okay, that it's incompetence. They should have not worried about being, overly suspicious. It was their job to be suspicious. But sometimes that kind of psychology kicks in.
But you have to say that there's so many people that were, we know that the sniper that took him out had his crosshairs on him. That's why he took him out within seconds afterwards. You couldn't, when a shot rings out, you have to look around, try to find out where it's coming from if you don't know, and then get your sights on him. It doesn't happen right away. So he was clearly, the sniper was on him, watching him the whole time. So if you're sitting there watching, this guy might be the assassin.
Right. Yeah.
If people are watching it, then surely there's somebody they're communicating with somebody. Somebody has made the call and say, don't take the shot.
Yeah, again,
we're not going to find out if it's the FBI, right? There's no way they're going
to. Well, I wouldn't say no way, but again, I would be skeptical about it.
What was it? 51 secret, 51 security, high-level security agents signed off on the Hunter Biden laptop thing, saying that it was Russian disinformation. That's how far they go. They're so open to just.
Right. Yeah, it was totally false, and these guys knew it. But they signed off on it. I won't
trust these guys for anything.
Yeah, well, that's the fix that we're in. Like in a, back in 1960s.
I know what you mean. Right. So I don't trust them at all to do anything correctly. Right. So but at the same time, I do believe, for sure. Right, but I'm also in the camp that I believe that the government is incredibly incompetent. I don't think they're able to toast a Pop-Tart correctly. Right. So they're bad. They're incompetent and they're nefarious. And
that's right. The question is, were they evil or were they just dumb?
But what I think it sounds like this was. I would go with it. Well, it's both. You're saying how this was such a poorly executed. If it was nefarious, it's like, you're just saying they're incompetent and they're
fair enough. Okay,
nefarious.
So you got me on that.
So I think I don't know. I think there's something else at play here.
Well, it was obvious. Charlie. And we know the answer. It just came out. It was the Iranians.
Right? I was going to bring that up. I couldn't believe it. So I was watching the RNC, the Republican National Convention yesterday, and there was a breaking news report, and it said there is a Iranian assassination attempt, or the Iranians are backing some type of assassination attempt that's been foiled by the U.S. government on Trump. They said that it wasn't related to Thomas Crooks, but yes, the Iranians are out to assassinate Trump. And of course, they didn't provide any proof or evidence. They just said it and then went back to it. Like, what is this coming from? I hate this so much because I have friends that are smart friends, that I know very well.
That stuff, right?
They when this happened, they said they're in a group chat. Everybody's going on, and one of my really smart friends, he's like, his money was on it. It was either China, Russia, or Iran. And I said, the probability of that, in my opinion, is close to zero. If it's could be any foreign nation, it's going to be the Ukrainians. But most likely, it's just someone with Trump derangement syndrome, which it seems like still seems to be the most likely case.
Right.
But
well, again, you just you could make an argument for Iran. They certainly have motive. The fact is that Trump assassinated their hero, Soleimani, and they would. In a way, they would be justified doing it. But that's just not the way Iran operates. Iran's actually very cautious. There's also the talk about, they're always described as wild madmen. But they're very cautious. And they know that something like this, if they in fact did something like this, they would bring down the wrath of the U.S. Military on them. And they don't want that. They might... Who knows? They might even win the war eventually, but it would be devastating to Iran. It would be absolutely devastating, and they do not want it. So it's it's anybody who understands the way actually, Iranian foreign policy has been conducted and how they've dealt with all kinds of provocations, such as the assassination of General Soleimani over the last years and decades, just knows this is not Iranian behavior. I think Ukraine would be more likely. I don't. And some people have said, like within Russia, and even I think a Ukrainian has said that's pointed the finger at them, because they do have a history of assassinating. And they just the other day,
Budanov, right?
Budanov, came out. I like the dark Budanov. Who likes he conducts his interviews in the dark because he likes being in the dark. Just a genocidal maniac. He goes on and on about how he likes killing Russians. But he admitted that they had attempted to assassinate Putin, several times. Obviously they failed, but so this is something they do, and they have assassinated many people, in Russia and in the former Ukrainian territories.
I want to take a second just to.
But I don't think it is them. I think it is a lone gunman. I'm still going with that until I see solid proof.